It doesn't matter how talented you are, what you achieve only kinda matters, because legacy is nothing more than the opinion that the world has of you. What better example is there than Rudy Gobert? The Frenchman has been crowned the NBA's best defender 4 times. If he wins another DPOY award, he'll officially become the best defender in the history of the league. Still, people won't stop picking on him. He's the butt of all the jokes. Why? Well, it's easy. Because of narratives. Narratives decide a player's legacy. They define their place in the league. And above all, they define their talent. Mind you, I'm not saying that all narratives are wrong. Clearly, Gobert shouldn't be named the best defender in the league's history. But on the other hand, there are many that don't do justice to the true quality of the players. Why do we hear more about Anthony Edwards than Shai Gilgeous Alexander? Why, if one of them has his team in the middle of the Western Conference standings and the other in first position, do we hear about Ant more? The time has come to give Shai the credit he deserves. The time has come to create a new narrative, and this one is a true narrative, I swear. The NBA is obsessed with finding new faces for the league, right? With the retirement of Kevin Durant, LeBron James, and Stephen Curry looming, Adam Silver needs replacements who are capable of exporting the league around the world. Spokespersons who continue to make basketball a global sport. But it seems that this decision doesn't depend only on the NBA head honchos. The fans, us. Deep down, we're the ones to blame. We're the ones who are going to decide who those replacements will be. It's we who, with our opinion, shape the history of the league. And the media. Don't forget the media too. They're also the ones to blame. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Stephen A. Also at you, Perk. The thing is that on many occasions, it doesn't matter what a player does. He's destined to have a reputation and importance that's very difficult to change over time. But can we stop for a moment? Can we realize what we have instead of continuing to wait for something that we don't know if it's going to arrive? Shai Gilgeous Alexander is on his way to winning the first MVP of his career at the age of 26. With a decade ahead of him to continue delighting fans, his rise to the top of the league's elite has been rapid and in part unexpected. But while he's presenting his bid to become the new face of the NBA, nobody seems to be aware. How is this possible in Big 2025? If we think about it, Shai's impact on the league was practically immediate. Despite being a borderline lottery pick, Doc Rivers, a coach who doesn't usually rely on young talent, trusted him and gave him the starting spot almost from the beginning. With him, the Clippers had a tremendously successful campaign in which they succeeded all expectations. But just when it seemed that SGA would be a key piece for their future, they decided to trade him. Yes, exactly, in exchange for Paul George. In a trade that, with time, has become a little unbalanced, to say the least, Shai landed in Oklahoma City to be an important player who would help rebuild the Thunder. But what nobody expected was that this rebuilding would be done based on him. He was the centerpiece. After once again exceeding all expectations alongside an aging Chris Paul who served as his mentor, Oklahoma made the playoffs. But the truth is that, although SGA was improving every day, his supporting cast would never allow him to go very far. And Sam Presti finally decided to press the rebuild button. While the Thunder lost and accumulated talent in the form of draft assets, Shai continued his stellar progression. His potential in the draft looked good, but there was nothing to suggest he would become an NBA All-Star. The number of qualities necessary to achieve this seemed to be out of his range. But Shai, developing a unique style, achieved this status. In fact, it could be said that right now, there's no brighter rising star in the entire league. In the last 3 seasons, Shai's averaging 31.2 points, 5.2 rebounds, and 5.9 assists per night in 193 games. His efficiency? Almost 53% on field goals, 35% on three-pointers, and 89% on free throws for a true shooting percentage of 63%. Despite being a guard and despite not being a shooter, Shai's one of the most efficient high-volume scorers in the entire league. His usage rate has averaged 33% over the last 3 seasons, making him one of the players with the highest offensive load in the NBA. Yet that doesn't detract him from his incredibly high percentage for what's considered a small player. As he says himself, SGA is consistent, extremely consistent.
How are you just so consistent, like the tide, night in and night out?
My whole life is consistent.
And that's the most dangerous thing of all. But how does he do it? What's his secret? Shai hasn't copied anyone, he just created his own style. Although in a way, it seems that he's mastered the art of the pick and roll and isolation. Although he's fast, he doesn't use his speed as his ultimate weapon. Although he's tall for his position, he doesn't use his length as his primary method of scoring either. Shai's a magician of changes in pace, he's a magician of tempo control, and a master of footwork. For him, any defensive interpretation has a counter, and if the defense has a counter, he finds another way to counter it again. Whether it's looking for the gap where there is none, finishing in a way that no one expected him to finish, he's able to achieve his goals. A revolutionary style of play that also allows him to go to the free throw line almost whenever he wants. Yeah, I know this has been a source of criticism. People hate seeing Shai taking 15 free throws in a game.
Minnesota needed some size here for the final.
And this is something really common, but have we stopped to think that all modern superstars depend on drawing fouls as an offensive resource? In fact, I dare to phrase it differently. Have you realized that to become a superstar in the modern NBA, you need to go to the free throw line regularly? It's not about being an ethical hooper.
We're just playing Cavs basketball. It's ethical basketball.
Players like KD, Bron, or Steph have managed to score throughout their careers without relying on going to the free throw line regularly. But times have changed. The modern offense is unable to be stopped by the defenses under the current rules, and only the best scorers are able to find those loopholes in the rules that earn them extra points. We have to remember that it's not the player's fault, it's the game's fault. Whether you consider it ethical or not, Shai has become one of the best players in the league, if not the best right now performance-wise. He finished 5th in the MVP race in 2023, 2nd in 2024, and this season he's the clear favorite to win the award for the first time in his career. Although he's been around for a long time, he's only 26 years old, and most importantly, the Thunder, thanks to Presti, have both the supporting cast and the assets necessary to improve if they eventually have to move in this direction. Any player in his situation would be considered the face of the NBA. He just checks all the boxes for that. Because there are players who have been the face of the league without even having won a championship. At Shai's age, neither Michael Jordan nor LeBron James knew what it was to win. In both cases, they were tired of losing. But Shai still has a decade of basketball left in his legs. Thanks to him, his team is now perfectly placed for him to win one, or even multiple, sooner rather than later. His impact, moreover, isn't limited to the NBA. Shai is his country's standard bearer in international competitions. We've already talked in other videos about how the Canadian team seems to get stronger and stronger as time goes by. They're capable of producing elite talent year after year, and right now they're enjoying a golden generation that gives the feeling of being able to dominate any country. Perhaps in the not-too-distant future they could even dominate Team USA like they did in 2023. But Canada wouldn't be the same without him, without their superstar, without their leader. Without the soul of a team that needs a guard capable of organizing the offense while punishing opposing defenses with his unprecedented moves. Because of his impact inside and outside the NBA, it's time to change the narrative about him. What more could you ask of a player to become the face of the league? Individual awards like the MVP he's about to win? Team titles like the one the Thunder seem set to win sooner rather than later? A unique style? Charisma? A sense of dominance? Aura? Man, we're talking about Shai. He has it all, and yet nobody seems to care. Only when you stop to think about his journey, how special he is, and above all his impact when it comes to winning games, do you realize that Shai's one of a kind. Perhaps the best guard of his entire generation. And if he manages to lift the Larry O'Brien trophy in a few months' time, it might be time to start having some uncomfortable conversations.